Hey everybody, this is my second video blog review for reading Agatha Christie's works in a year. And this is the hat my sister knitted for me for Christmas, so I'm wearing that in her honor. Today, I am reviewing Agatha Christie's second novel, written in 1922. It's called The Secret Adversary. I'm not quite sure why this publisher chose to put a big fly on the cover, but nevertheless they do. There's nothing to do with insects. This novel is basically, it's already a departure from her first work, which was as we talked about last time, a locked room mystery. This is an espionage piece, and a fairly light-hearted one. And in this, she also introduces her another pair of recurring characters that are going to show up in maybe 3 or 4 other novels. And they are Thomas Beresford and Prudence Cowley. Prudence is known as Tuppence, so it's Tommy and Tuppence, which already has a cutesy feel to it. I think what Christie's going for with Tommy and Tuppence is kind of similar to what Dashiell Hammett was going for with the Thin Man series. Nick and Nora Charles, his characters, they're kind of a glamorous pair, and they're very cosmopolitan, gin-swilling folks who like to party and have a good time and solve crimes along the way. This novel finds Tommy and Tuppence just reunited after having seen each other during the middle of the war, when Tommy was wounded as a soldier and Tuppence was working in the voluntary aid detachment as a nurse in a hospital. But they are lifelong friends. Okay, Tommy and Tuppence find each other right after the war. They're both unemployed, really terribly poor, both highly motivated to earn some money. They decide to put in an ad in the paper that they are willing to be young adventurers and commit crimes for other people, kind of do anything, go anywhere sort of thing. And in this adventure, they end up working basically for the Secret Service, trying to find a young woman who disappeared in 1915. She was on the Lusitania, which is an actual ship that was torpedoed in that year. And in this story, she's this young woman whose name is Jane Finn. She's observed being handed some important documents by a known spy working for the British and American government. One big theme in this story is something that's going to play out in Agatha Christie's actual life. The young woman, Jane Finn, who they're trying to get information out of, the bad guys that is, she's suffering from amnesia, or she says she is, and she's just speaking French. She can only speak French. And in Agatha Christie's own life, maybe about 4 years after this novel was written, she disappeared for 11 days, and when she was found at a health spa resort in the country, she claimed to have had amnesia and she couldn't remember who she was. The other interesting thing that you've got this character named Mr. Brown. No one knows who he is. He's this nondescript character. He works for the bad guys. In fact, he's the leader of the bad guys. He's trying to get a hold of this document that Jane Finn was handed, because it was a secret treaty that was written up at the beginning of the war, and its publication would embarrass the government and lead to political unrest. And this Mr. Brown wants to stage a political coup so he can take over the government and have supreme power. And he's this inconspicuous person. You never know when he'll show up or who he'll be. He's always in a subordinate role, and even his own followers don't know who he is. I found that part of the plot a little bit difficult to swallow on a realistic level. Of course, much of the story is pretty fanciful. Okay, one theme is an exploration of the differences between the British and Americans. Agatha Christie herself was coming from an interesting standpoint, because although she was British, her father was American. So that might have given her some insight into American behavior, or some guess at how Americans may behave. And I think when you look at some of the crime literature that comes out of Britain in this era, and even a little bit before with Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes stories, what you get is a very interesting perception of how British people see Americans. The characters are either gangsters or they're cowboys. And there's a young man in this novel who's an American millionaire, and he's always using words like bully and tarnation, what in tarnation, and let's hustle things up, and they're used very awkwardly, and so it's pretty charming to read, actually, to see what her take on Americans were, and the fact that these Americans, they want to get things done. They're very in your face. Okay, and again we have this mistrust of foreigners, particularly in this one, Germans and Russians. And again, Christie's stereotyping them. By their physical appearance, heavy brows and enlarged foreheads, in a very almost. Well, I don't know if it's her own prejudice or if it's her kind of reflecting the prejudice of the society that she's writing about. Probably it's a little bit of both. The other theme, the last theme I'll talk about, is a recurring theme. Already we have a recurring theme between this book, The Secret Adversary, and the first one, The Mysterious Affair at Styles. You'll remember in my first review, Poirot at the end of that one talks about the love between a man and woman. This one actually has a little bit more of a fun-loving attitude about marriage. Of course, by the end of the novel, we've got 4 young people, 2 men, 2 women, and they pair off quite nicely, almost like a Shakespearean comedy. And in this one, Tommy and Tuppence are talking at the end, and this is what they say. Tommy says, "You won't be able to get out of marrying me, so don't you think it." "What fun it will be," responded Tuppence. "Marriage is called all sorts of things. A haven, a refuge, and a crowning glory, and a state of bondage, and lots more. But do you know what I think it is?" "What?" "A sport. And a damn good sport, too," said Tommy. And that's how the novel ends. So we know they're going to get married. So it's less of a romantic take and more of this love as a game. And this looks like it's going to be fun. So let's see. This one was a hard one for me to rate because I think that it's very good, but because I don't like the espionage thing, and I don't think that she's completely successful. I'm going to say a 3.75 out of 5 stars, because it is a good read. And it's completely different from her first novel, which I think is also something to applaud her for.